Hey, hey. All right. We are live. Welcome, hopefully, your Sunday afternoon or evening, wherever you may be. It's going well. It is a rainy disaster here in North Carolina as there's some storms rolling in from the southeast hitting us pretty hard. So hopefully, we have no power outages or internet blips or anything like that. So we are back at it. It's been a while since our Build a Product with Me project has happened. I've been doing a little bit of research off stream. That's why I've been streaming a little bit less as I try and get things in order. I've been testing out a few different approaches in how I work with Claude Code and everything associated there. So this stream is going to introduce. So I have some new approaches with how I'm working with Claude Code and making those changes. This video is going to walk through how all of that works and the updated approach that I have that I'm really excited about. The three-headed peer review monster that I have going on that not only reviews the code, but also gives me thoughts and ideas and will create stories for me for future work that I need to go and tackle. So we have a bunch of changes, way too many changes. Actually, this PR is going to be giant. I'm pretty disappointed in myself, but that's okay. That's why we have our friends. So we are going to work with Claude Code here as is normal. And we're going to have Claude create PRs, create a PR, not plural, for us. All right. Ready to create a PR for all of this work. Once again, this is all related to issue number 33. Please create a well-informed and contextually based PR for the reviewers. Let's start that over. This will allow the reviewers to maximize the value of their time spent reviewing our code changes. Okay. Claude does a pretty darn good job of creating a PR, documenting everything that goes into that. So I'm going to let it do that. It does a better job than I do when I create it by hand. GitHub Copilot also has a nice way to create summaries for your PR. So whether you choose to use Claude Code or allow GitHub Copilot to create that summary, either way, it works. Both are very effective, especially when you give it the guidance of, remember, we're going to have reviewers that are going to need to understand everything that's going on. So give them as much context as possible. So it's working through creating all of that work, going to get the PR done. After that, there will be 3 different services that kick off and provide a review based on this code. The first will be Claude Code. Second, CodeRabbit. And third, Copilot. So the nice thing is I have 3 different services looking at all of these changes, validating whether it makes sense, if there's any tweaks or anything. It's been very effective. I've been very happy with this approach because it does give you 3 sets of eyes looking at the same code differently. And it's been very impactful. I've been very happy with that. Once the reviews are done, I'll show you what we do from there. Very excited about this. All right, so here we go. It is creating the PR. We'll then be able to go see it. Okay. Here is the PR that it is created. This closes number 33, means that once we approve everything and merge the PR, it automatically moves the work item I have in our board. As you can see in our board, I have this minimal card of view location that is the details of all of the work that we're doing, linked to that PR. So if we go back to the PR, it gives you all the information that we've added. Again, I did way too much work in this PR, disappointed with myself, but it's going to help highlight the value of the 300 monster that I've built here. So we added the photo upload system with Cloudinary. I think that's how you say it. We didn't have an actual location page. Well, we had a location page, but it wasn't linked or being used at all. So we have our location page set up so that as I find a location on a map, I can click in and see and understand it. Because of all of that, we needed to start to do authorization and make sure that you were logged in. You can see this because with a freemium model, we can't just, it needs to be freemium. And step one of freemium is you have an account. So you are logged in. You can do all these things. That's an additional piece that we had to add in as a part of this. To do that, there were architectural changes, database schemas, API enhancements, on and on and on and on. So it gives you the full context of what's happening. Let me kick off Copilot, have it start doing its thing. All right, so CodeRabbit, as you see, is off and running, figuring things out, and Claude is also doing the same. So this takes a little bit of while. It takes a while for each review to happen. Don't expect that you're going to make all of these changes. You're going to ask for a PR from Claude or CodeRabbit or Copilot, and it's going to instantly be there. I found that Copilot turns out to be the fastest. Claude is usually the slowest, and CodeRabbit lives somewhere in the middle. But it's interesting how each of them find different things in the code, which I've appreciated because that's what you want. Normally, when I'm coaching a team, we require that two different people look at the code before we give it the thumbs up and merge it. Again, you want those separate set of eyes, a different way to look at the code, a different way to think about it. As I've said in other videos, this does not get you off the hook. This doesn't mean you don't roll up your sleeves and look at the code. You still need to be looking at the code. So don't think because we have 3 extra tools helping us out that it's replacing the effort that we should have put into the PR. So I'm going to spend some time doing that right now, walking through some things while they are working through doing the same. Oh my gosh. 36 files changed. That is way too many. And you know whose fault that is? Mine. I didn't do a good enough job of setting the bounds for the work that we were doing. If you've watched any of my other videos, you know that's a thing that I preach. So I need to practice what I preach. I will, because this has been a painful process of wrestling with all these changes. Ooh. Everybody relax, browser. The browser's fine. Browser struggling. Another thing that CodeRabbit does its own summary of the PR. It didn't write the summary of the PR, but it goes through and compiles, hey, this is what I understand is happening. It does a nice job of drawing graphs and maps and helps you understand how data is moving around the whole process. So I found that to be pretty exceptional. Yes, I am paying for all of these services, but when you think for, let's see, I'm on the Claude Max plan, so that's $100 a month plus Code Rabbit. Code Rabbit is about, I think, $13 a month, and I believe less than $10 for GitHub Copilot. So $125, we'll say, out the door per month to have all of this assistance reviewing all of the code that we are creating together. I think that is money well spent. No one's paying me to say that, but as I look at this and think about, would I pay $125 a month to have this level of rigor investigating all of the changes that we make? Yeah, I would. Yeah, I do. Man, oh man, people. Laptop is unhappy here. Let me stop my. Let's stop Claude. Let's stop the dev server. See if that gets us. Some of our browser power back. All right, so let's just go back to the conversation page. As you can see, there have been 23 discussion topics here. Man. Browser is struggling, my friend. Okay, let's see what we have going on here. All right, so here you can see CodeRabbit added its own summary on top of the PR summary that Claude Code created. So this is it recapping, hey, I went through all the code, I read through it all, here's how I understand things to be. There's a walkthrough of all the changes, how they work together, sequence diagram of data flowing back and forth. This gets a bit tricky here as we upload photos and using Cloudinary. So this is something that's beneficial as you start to understand, you introduce changes like this and you say, well, wait a minute, why is this working different than everything else? It doesn't traverse the same path as we would expect. Help you understand, address that. problems. All right, so here is Claude Code's review. Gives you a general perspective. Okay, security concerns. This PR mentions signed uploads, but uses upload preset. Copilot has been the most consistent reviewer with providing optimization on the code. A lot of Claude Code's work, it does a really good job of discussing security loopholes or concerns and evaluating that, which is very beneficial in the AI space because you could unknowingly create some holes in your security and get exposed. Nobody wants that. So that does a good job. But as far as like general, hey, let's optimize the way you've written this, GitHub Copilot has been the most effective tool of the three that I'm using at figuring that out. I can appreciate that. This is definitely one that we're going to put into place. Let's see. Yep, appreciate that. Code Rabbit, yes. Okay. All right, so here we go. So here's how, actually, let me finish reading through these. Why is this? CodeRabbit is very effective at looking across the entire application and understanding what our standards and patterns and practices are, and does a really good job of making sure that you're in sync across your code base, which is something that, as you know, if you've been paying attention to any of my content, I've been wrestling with. So CodeRabbit is a really great backstop to have to make sure that nothing slips by as I'm allowing Claude Code to do more of its thing and just run, especially in a PR of this size, which is unfortunately way too big. Yeah, so something. All right, so let's go back here and let's go back to Claude. We now have some good review comments from 3 different providers. Read through all of those and build a plan for ones we should address right away and ones that we should create GitHub issues for so that we can tackle them later, but retain the context of each issue. Think hard and use context 7 to consult documentation whenever needed. Go into plan mode. Okay, so now that the 3 reviews are done, 3 different systems have reviewed all of the changes that we've made. Now we ask Claude, using GitHub, go in and read through all of the reviews that are out there. Let's build a plan for things that we need to address right now versus ones that we're okay waiting on. And if we're going to wait on them, let's maintain the context that we have and have it create a GitHub issue so that when we're ready to pick it up, we don't have to rediscover that. Think of the context switching that you go through as a developer. When you put work down, you pick other work up. That's difficult. We can now maintain the context across sessions so that when it's time for us to go pick that up, that context is all baked in and ready to go. This is no different than when you refine your work with your product owner or whoever in your product organization that you work with to get the work defined and ready to go and pulled into your sprint. This is the same thing. Think about how effective you are when your stories are really good and you have the context right up front. It's easy for you to consume and understand. You're way more confident at going and building that feature or fixing that bug, whatever it might be. The more context you have, the more effective you are. This is no different. So now use the context that you have and leverage that for your future use. Should be using the GitHub. Why are you not using the GitHub CLI to query our open PRs and get the comments? You're absolutely right. I was going to say. Claude. All right, so it's doing this thing. We finally had to remind it, oh yeah, we have the GitHub CLI baked in. You can use that. You should use that. Not sure why that's new. So now it's got a plan. So here we go. Let's see what we've got. Immediate actions. Yes, that performance. Without a doubt. Number 1, yes, that makes sense. Okay, so when there's big lists like this, I'm still using pen and paper to take notes as I think about the feedback that I want to give and coaching. As I read through this, there's a lot here. So I still manually take notes of, okay, this is the feedback I need to give back to Claude to refine and adjust. So one of the things is check schema against Claude.md db infer. Okay. Dark mode support issues. Yes. Authentication on get endpoint. No, we don't want locations to be publicly viewable. And I do want to do ARIA now. No, let's see. So one of the things that I'm worried about is be careful with assuming on moving schemas, especially on locations, because of the transformation we have to do for coordinates. Check with Claude.md to validate if this makes sense or not. Also, I saw some comments about schemas that are not using the drizzle and drizzle Zod inference of types and schemas. If we have some Claude MD violations there, let's take care of that. Yes, let's do the dark mode and ARIA changes right now. I want to keep the get endpoint behind off so that we can continue to drive the value of our freemium model by requiring basic logins. Let's see what else. Don't worry about the migration file issue. That is fine. Think hard and use context 7 to read docs when necessary. Rebuild the plan. So once again, like everything I've talked about, please don't blindly accept the recommendations. Hit the pause button, think them through, understand whether it makes sense to allow AI to go down that path. There's many times where it's well intentioned, but it starts taking you down a different tangential path that sometimes gets out of control and gets unwieldy, and that becomes a problem. So try and keep your scope narrow. One of the things that I am continually reminding myself, everything that I teach teams when I'm coaching, is that we want to keep stories small, changes small. That is more true than ever in the world of AI because it will get out of hand fast because the speed with which it can work. So when it runs fast, if the proper guardrails aren't in place, it will get off track fast. And then unwinding that can get lengthy. So be careful out there. All right, here we go. What do you have for me, Claude? I'm excited. Hopefully we can get this all pushed through. Move on to the next thing. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Whoa. All right, it's got a lot more than expected. All right. Critical performance issue. Yes, we need to do that. Schema import architecture violations. Yes. Okay. Document support, ARIA. Yep. Keep off on get point. Yes. Okay. All right, we're going to let it do its thing. Good refinement. Okay, so we've been streaming for about 30 minutes at this point. That means we've been working on this PR for about 30 minutes as we've been going back and forth, allowing the three different tools to evaluate all of the changes, us to evaluate the responses to those changes and understand what makes sense, asking Claude to summarize those and decide which ones we should and shouldn't do. If there's any we don't want to do right now, we will create GitHub issues for us to tackle those later. But this is, again, this is not just, do not just close your eyes, press accept. Take the time to invest in your pull request code review process. It's worth the $125 a month for me to have these three different sets of eyes to go and review the code, plus my fourth sets of eyes to figure out, does all this make sense? Is this the right change? Am I digging myself in a deep or potentially deeper hole with some of these changes? So I beg of you, please take the time, please invest in reviewing all of the code that your AI generation tool, whatever it may be, is generating. Okay, moving right along. Yep. All right, it's doing this thing. Let's see. What would be some good content that we talk about? What would be good? I've got to tell you, at first, I thought it was kind of crazy to use AI to review AI generated code and then to use another AI to summarize and evaluate the reviews of those three tools. And the key is, I'm not just letting it do its thing, I'm still injecting my knowledge and my experience and supporting all of that and providing some guardrails on, okay, let's do this, but not this. But the value added by me leveraging these three sources to look at all of our code has been massive. Okay, we're wrapping this up. After this all completes, we'll have it create another commit, push up to the PR that will kick off another set of reviews. So by the time we work through this entire process, reviewing these 36 files, a few hundred lines of code, we will have spent probably 45 minutes of back and forth optimizing that, making sure we're doing the right things, creating contextual issues for future use to be addressed. Then we'll be in a good spot. Let's take a look at some of the issues that it's created. Here's our project. The one thing it's not doing is it's not attaching them to the project. It's the thing that we've got to fix. So here's an example of an issue that was created based on PR comments from our 3 different tools. There were a handful of things that we identified as, yeah, that's a reasonable thing for us to fix, but we actually have more important things for us to go tackle now. So let's create an issue so that the context is saved so that we can quickly and easily go and address this when it's appropriate for us. As you can see, it walks through the issue, gives us the solution and steps to validate that it works. This is exactly what you would expect of any user story or any well-defined piece of work that you as a developer would want when you're planning your next sprint or when you're working with your product team to define what we're going to go build next. Take advantage of that context that you gain during the PR process to leverage that for future. Now we can point Claude. We can now point Claude directly at this issue and say, let's go resolve issue number 41. It will go look up the issue. It will look at all of the context it has here, and I can bet it will effectively one-shot the changes that are needed. At that point, we make the changes, we create a PR, push it up, we get the reviews, and we're done. Again, none of this is different than what we all know we should be doing, and hopefully you and your team are doing. So this is exactly where you need to keep an eye on it. It did some refactoring and now it found an issue, and it usually goes one of 2 directions. One, it quickly finds the issue, makes the appropriate change, or it layers on another change on top of the bad change, trying to make it better. And then that doesn't work. And then it puts another change on top of that change and makes it worse. That's again where you need to keep your eyeballs on it and make sure that you're shepherding it through, getting all the choices done well. Okay. So a little worried that it had an idea, it tried something, now it's trying to unwind it, and there's times when it doesn't effectively unwind the change. Correct. Wait. Why do we need? All right, so we're gonna go back to plan mode. It's gotten off the rails a little bit as it tries to optimize and optimize and optimize. So when it gets itself in trouble. I don't know that I like this plan of removing runtime validation. That looks okay. Uses violating by creating duplicate schemas. Okay. Okay. That all seems good. So I got a little bit worried because it was wanting to remove the runtime validation within the API. And that's one of those things where sometimes AI's answer to the problem is it's not matching. So let's not check if it matches. Then the problem just goes away. That's not the solution that we want. But what it did validate is, hey, we are checking it at the service layer, so we're good. So I'm comfortable with us removing that check. Be careful anytime the AI. Be careful anytime the AI says, hey, we're going to remove this, because then everything's fine. That's when your spidey senses need to kick in. You need to start checking. Wait a minute. Wait. Why do you want to remove that? Are you removing it just to get it passing? Because sometimes it does that. And so there might be a time where you needed, like, hey, remember, this is important. So let's get the fix right. So we should be good now. Famous last words, right? We should be good. Yeah, it'll be fine. All right, we got to be careful here. Okay, this all seems reasonable. Okay. I'd say the largest Claude Code wrangling that I've had in this entire process, 8 days, probably about, I don't know, 16 to 20 hours. The biggest issue I've had is that when it gets into trouble with TypeScript, its answer is let's create another type. So then you end up with this proliferation of all these types that have the potential to get out of sync. Since I use Drizzle and Drizzle Zod, we infer the types. So manually creating these numerous duplicate type definitions just makes things worse. So that's one of the things I've been really working hard with Claude and the memory and the context that I provide it to ensure that we maintain that very narrow scope of minimal, no duplicated schemas. I did jinx it last time. I did say we should be good, and then we weren't. A little nervous about this. Yeah, this is feeling uncomfortable. No, see, this is where all of our type work. This feels dangerous. So if we end up off the rails, which we're on the verge of doing, we're on the verge because we're 15, 20 minutes in to wrestling with this refactor of a refactor. That's where it may be time to roll up the white flag, discard changes, narrow the scope. Yeah, okay. So we're gonna stop. Because this was working. So let me discard the changes. Let Let me also just make sure that everything works as it should. Doing fine, we're logged in. Let's view this Chick-fil-A. Let's add a photo. We want to add, we'll add, sure, this one looks nice. Upload failed. Expected end of. Okay. So roll back our changes because we were getting off course. We are unable to upload new photos, and we are getting this error. Build a plan for how we can fix this. Think hard and use text 7 for Cloudinary documentation support. Plan mode. Whoops. Here's the error. I like how it says, I can see the error. The error is unexpected end of JSON when that's exactly the error we handed it. Congrats, Claude. Several issues. Okay. All looks good. All makes sense. I do feel like it might be time for playwright tests to validate some of this interactivity. Okay, here we go. Yes, fixed context object. Yes, yes, yes. So can we? Well, we absolutely know who it is because we have the photos, so we're fine. Yeah, so we already have in our table, in our photos table, we track who uploaded it, so we can track things back. I want to, while this is happening, interesting, Cloudinary MCP server. That could be useful. So in theory, we're back to this problem. Hmm. Question is, how is this? That makes sense. If we go much further, I'm coming up on the as I was saying, we're getting close to scrap and start over. That sounds aggressive. That sounds like, Josh, are you freaking kidding me? Like, that's really the plan you've got? And yeah, that's the plan. Hmm. So yeah, I am getting close to ripping the band-aid off, rolling back all of the work, doing it piece by piece from scratch. This is 100% my fault. This is 100% my fault because the scope of the work that I was asking Claude to do is too big and too broad. And it's ineffective at managing that context across all of the things. Just as it is for a developer when you give them a project or a story or a bug that's just too big and too broad. For us, it's normally if there's a story that's pointed at around 13 story points, that's generally too large to expect for members of my team to be able to go and knock that out effectively. It just gets out of hand. And we're in a similar situation here with Claude. So the best thing for me to do is likely unravel everything, start the party all over again with lessons learned, break it down piece by piece, knock it out, it'll be more effective. I'll feel better. Right now I'm at the point where I'm concerned about this getting out of control because it just keeps finding more errors and more errors and more errors. Wait, why are we doing this? Why is there an issue with the drizzled Zod schema? You're just assuming things. Hmm. Yeah, drizzled Zod is not the issue. Why? So we're going to create an issue. First things first. Okay. So now let's see if this works. And we are right on that. We are right on the edge of me pulling the plug and saying, let's undo all of this. Man. Okay. Add photo. Browse. That worked. And we should have a photo. Dang it. Yeah, we had it working, and then I put more layers on it. Yep, we are going to okay. Damn it. Is this messy enough? Is this messy enough for me to undo it? Damn it. right, so there's a photo now. Okay. If we upload another image, all right. Dang it, what do I do here, fellas? This all makes sense. This all makes sense. This all makes sense. Yes, that all makes sense. That one doesn't, but we're going to address it. Yeah, why does that not work? I just don't understand. Okay. All right. Summarize all of our uncommitted changes and get them added to GitHub and pushed up into the PR. that make sense? Okay, so tomorrow we're going to do small, compact changes. As I said multiple times, this thread of work got way out of hand, and that has caused me to. I've now been working on getting this PR pushed through, everything healthy for an hour and 40 minutes. That's my fault. That's not going to happen again. So tomorrow we'll be in a much better spot. I'm excited about that. I'll be able to. Progress is so. It's so much nicer when you break your work into smaller chunks because you see progress and you don't get bogged down by, oh, this giant thing I'm going to try and manage. Just, man, that's a pain in the ass. That's exactly where I'm at right now. I'm exactly in that spot that we all end up in where you're hating life, you're mad at yourself because no one but you screwed it up. So that's okay. Put my head down, figured it out, was almost ready to give up, redo everything, but no, we fought through. We fought through. All right, so we have Claude is back up and running. Get Copilot to re-review. Yeah. All right, so we'll let that run. So while that's happening, let me think about what we should be doing next. So view location is going to be done. It's a little wonky. I boy, need to evaluate this because the create schema we're getting schemas everywhere versus using the type, but we need the schema to validate. Can we have it infer from the type? If everything's just a type. Yeah, let's do this. So rely on typing versus schema validation. This should be simpler and not have schemas everywhere. Yeah, so first things first, we're going to solve that problem because that's a sizable problem for us right now. Is we've got schemas everywhere. Then I do want to get to a point where our queries are not, whenever we're doing a select, we don't need to list out every column. Then we do need to get going on some features. Man. catching malformed JSON and calling request.json, return 400. I can get behind that. Hmm. All right, so we've got an issue here where all right, so this is comment. So both Copilot and CodeRabbit see a similar issue where our API response schema isn't great. So we can do z dot, yeah. So let me make that change. And our hooks. So that should be good. We're getting close. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to start over. Yes. So that's the plan. We're just getting too far off course. So I'm gonna start this over tomorrow. We're gonna chunk it up. We're gonna make the progress we need, and I'm gonna be confident and happy with what we're building. Right now, I don't feel good about this. I feel like we are on the verge of it getting out of hand. So we're gonna recalibrate, get this back in a good spot. So all right, I'm gonna go build a game plan to make that happen, and I will see you all tomorrow.